You hear the crack before you see your companion fall, and his leg folds beneath him as rain moves over the ridge. The group is already short on food, so you can stay and risk everyone or move and leave one person exposed to hunger. Infection and predators. What did ancient humans do when someone could no longer walk? The evidence suggests more than a quick act of kindness. Prehistoric groups sometimes turned one person's broken mobility into a problem the whole community had to solve. A serious leg injury changes everything before the bleeding even stops. You cannot follow migrating animals, reach distant water, or escape a cat, a hyena, or a sudden grass fire. Even gathering fuel becomes dangerous when every movement sends pain through bone and muscle. In a mobile group, being unable to walk can also trap everyone else. Do they stop, split up, or find a way to move you? Every answer spends time, food, and human strength. The simplest prediction is brutal. A small foraging group cannot afford passengers because every adult must produce food, defend camp, and carry supplies. That logic sounds efficient in a harsh landscape. Yet skeletons from several prehistoric communities do not fit it. Some people survived severe impairments for years, long enough for their bones to record thousands of ordinary mornings after the injury. Their survival asks a harder question than whether ancient people felt compassion. One of the clearest cases comes from Man Bac in northern Vietnam. Between roughly 3.700 and 4.000 years ago, a young man known as Burial 9 lived with paralysis. Mark Oxenham and his colleagues concluded that he had lost the use of his lower body and had, at best, very limited movement above it. The condition began in childhood, yet he survived into his 20s. His community did not simply keep him alive through one crisis. They supported him for close to a decade. That survival would have required repeated decisions. Someone had to bring water, provide food he could manage, help keep him clean, and change his position. Those details do not survive directly in the soil, but they follow from what prolonged paralysis does to a human body. Without regular assistance, dehydration, pressure injuries, infection, exposure, or simple hunger could become fatal. The danger returned every day. Care had to return with it. Lorna Tilley used this case while developing what she called the bioarchaeology of care. The phrase sounds technical, but the method is straightforward. Start with the injuries or disease visible in a skeleton. Work out what those conditions stopped the person from doing, and ask what help must have existed for survival to continue. The method cannot prove every emotion behind that help. It can reveal the practical work and the choices surrounding it. At Man Bac, those choices were expensive. The community lived without hospitals, wheelchairs, antibiotics, or powered transport. Food had to be grown, gathered, hunted, processed, and carried by hand. Time spent helping Burial 9 could not be spent on another task. His survival therefore represents a long chain of decisions made by many people. Not one dramatic rescue. Why would a community accept that cost? The tempting answer is compassion. But the bones allow a more careful conclusion. People form bonds, grieve losses, and protect those they love. Yet skeletons cannot preserve affection. They cannot tell you whether care came from duty, kinship, status, skill, belief, or several motives at once. What they show is that the group repeatedly decided his continued presence mattered. That is the first major payoff hidden inside Burial 9. A person unable to walk did not automatically become a person outside the community. Survival could become a shared obligation. If you value evidence-based mysteries that recover the human choices hidden inside ancient bones, liking this video and subscribing will help you keep exploring them here. Now return to the moment of injury. Your companion cannot put weight on one leg, but the camp cannot remain where it is because water is disappearing. There is no single prehistoric solution preserved for you to copy. Wooden poles, hides, fiber ropes, and woven mats usually decay, so a carrying frame or drag litter might vanish completely. The absence of a stretcher in the ground is not proof that no stretcher existed. Still, every possible method carries a cost. 2 people can support an injured person between their shoulders, keeping him upright while occupying both helpers. A hide can become a sling, poles can make a litter, and a simple drag can move weight across open ground. Rough stone, roots, mud, and steep slopes would make each method punishing. The group might divide the journey into shorter stages or leave supplies behind. None of these solutions is certain for a particular burial. They are reasonable reconstructions of the materials, terrain, and human strength available. The next problem is pace. A mobile camp follows weather, animals, plants, and water, but one person's injury can change every route. A steep pass becomes impossible, a river crossing becomes slower, and a familiar camp may be used longer than planned. Care now stops looking like one person feeding another. It becomes logistics for the entire group. Can a community reorganize before scarcity catches it? Shanidar Cave in the Zagros Mountains preserves a different version of that problem. A Neanderthal known as Shanidar I survived into older adulthood with a remarkable collection of impairments. Eric Trinkhaus and Sebastien Villet described a crushed left eye socket that probably reduced his vision. He had lost his right forearm and hand, and his skeleton showed an abnormal gait. Bony growths in his ear canals probably reduced his hearing, especially on one side. Together, those conditions would have transformed how he moved through danger. Shanidar I was not necessarily unable to walk, and that distinction matters. Disability is not a switch between complete independence and complete helplessness. He may have walked slowly, painfully, or unevenly and needed help only on difficult ground. He may also have performed tasks that did not require two strong arms or perfect hearing. The evidence supports a social safety net. It does not require a picture of someone being carried every hour. Picture a hunt beginning before sunrise. The group listens for movement beyond the firelight, where reduced hearing makes a sound harder to locate. One functional hand limits some weapons and loads, while an uneven gait turns a chase into greater danger. The obvious prediction is exclusion. Instead, survival into later life suggests adjustment. What could adjustment look like without inventing a job for him? He may have stayed closer to camp on certain days or taken part in work suited to his abilities. Processing hides, maintaining fire, shaping materials, watching children, and sharing knowledge are possibilities, not facts preserved in his skeleton. The important fact is that human work has never been only one task. A group can redistribute effort when one body changes. Physical limitation may reduce some contributions without erasing every contribution. That possibility changes the original survival equation. A person who cannot walk today may still know where water lasts during drought. An injured hunter may remember animal routes, while an older adult may recognize weather, poisonous plants, difficult births, or dangerous strangers. Knowledge weighs nothing on a litter. It can save more calories than one strong body can gather. This does not mean every cared for person had to earn survival through usefulness. It means the cost of care cannot be calculated from muscle alone. The counterintuitive twist is that care may have increased group resilience rather than weakened it. Helping an injured person costs energy now, but abandoning every injured person destroys trust. If one fall ends your place in the group, cooperation becomes fragile. If help is likely, people can take coordinated risks, share food, and specialize with greater confidence. A safety net can make dangerous teamwork more possible. That idea is difficult to prove in one ancient camp, yet it fits repeated survival with serious impairment. Another case sharpens the difference between direct care and accommodation. Around 11,000 years ago, a young person called Romito II lived in the mountains of southern Italy. David Freyer and colleagues identified a rare form of dwarfism called acromesomelic dysplasia. In plain language, the condition severely shortened the limbs while leaving the trunk closer to typical size. Romito II survived to roughly 17 to 20 years old. Life in that steep landscape would have demanded movement. Researchers debated whether survival proved constant hands-on care. A person with short limbs is not automatically helpless, and modern assumptions can turn physical difference into imagined dependence. Tilly later revisited the case and argued for what she called accommodation of difference. The group may not have needed to carry Romito II everywhere. It may instead have adjusted expectations, tasks, pace, and participation. That is a subtler form of care, and it is easier to miss. Suppose the group climbs toward a seasonal camp. Most people carry heavy bundles, while Romito II carries less, takes a different path, or receives help over steep ground. At camp, other work may fit that body better. The arrangement does not require pity. It requires flexibility. The community survives by matching tasks to people instead of forcing every body into the same role. This evidence also warns against a comforting myth. Ancient care was not automatically gentle, equal, or universal. Some injured people certainly died before help could reach them, and others may have been abandoned. Many skeletons were never preserved, found, or recognized. A few dramatic cases cannot tell you how every community behaved. They show that severe disability did not always end social belonging. There was another hard choice after the first crisis passed. How long should the group keep changing its life? A broken bone might heal in weeks or months, while paralysis could last for years. Seasonal movement would bring the same argument again and again. Carry extra weight now, or lose a person? Remain near resources, or follow the herds? No prehistoric council left minutes behind. The answer survives only in bodies that lived long enough for injuries to heal, joints to wear differently, or disease to progress. Healing is time made visible in bone. Long survival makes repeated assistance increasingly plausible. This is why one skeleton can reveal part of a social system. It records consequences rather than speeches. That pressure makes the evidence more striking. At Man Bac, support continued long after any hope of quick recovery. At Shanidar, an impaired adult survived repeated dangers in a demanding foraging life. At Romito, physical difference appears to have been accommodated across years of growth. The pattern is not identical in all three cases. Ancient humans had more than one way to keep someone inside the circle. Direct care was one way. Feed, clean, lift, shelter, and guard. Accommodation was another. Change the route, reduce the load, alter the task, or slow the pace. Social value could also come through memory, relationships, identity, or knowledge. The person did not have to become physically typical again. The group had to make continued life possible. That may be the deepest answer to the central question. Now the opening choice looks different. Staying with the injured person is risky. But leaving is also risky because it teaches everyone what their future will be after the next fall. A community that carries one injured member carries a promise for every healthy member. That promise may strengthen cooperation before anyone is hurt. It may help explain why humans came to depend on one another so deeply. Survival was never only the strength of the body standing upright. Your modern world hides much of this calculation. Ramps, vehicles, medicine, sanitation, and stored food turn old survival problems into infrastructure. Yet the central choice remains: does the person have to fit the system? Or does the system change enough to include the person? Ancient bones cannot write a moral rule for you. They can show that adaptation has always been social as well as biological. The shape of care changes, but the decision underneath it remains familiar. The next mystery begins where this one ends. Once a group chose to carry the injured, it also had to decide who found food, who guarded camp, and who absorbed the risk. Those choices shaped leadership, trust, and the first human safety nets. And they are still shaping your life now. You hear the crack before you see your companion fall. But human survival begins with what happens after everyone turns toward the sound.